Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are in chapter 31, the final vision, and this is the conclusion of section 5, the concept of self. Of course, I'm reading with the Course Companions group out of A Course in Miracles with Robert Perry and Emily Bennington. If you'll please close your eyes and join me in prayer. Dear Father, if left to my own devices, my perception will be skewed. I surrender to you everything that I think and feel. God, please take my past, plan my future, send your Spirit to redeem my mind that I might be set free. May I be your channel, God, and serve the world. May I become who you would have me be, do what you would have me do, go where you would have me go, and say what you would have me say, and to whom, dear God? God, I thank you for my many, many blessings. Please enable me an open mind for a new experience in this and all things today. Amen. And so it is. And we are picking up on 9, but I'm going to read 8. Thus are the Holy Spirit's lesson plans arranged in easy steps, that though there be some lack of ease at times and some distress, there is no shattering of what was learned, but just a retranslation of what seems to be the evidence on its behalf. Let us consider then what proof there is that you are what your brother made of you. For even though you do not yet perceive that this is what you think, you surely learn by now that you behave as if it were. Does he, your brother, react for you? And did he know exactly what would happen? Could he see your future and ordain before it came what you should do in every circumstance? Footnote 23. In other words, the idea that your brother made you what you are implies that he is the cause of what you do. This implies that he knows ahead of time what circumstances you will encounter, and in parentheses, exactly what would happen, that he controls your reactions to them, in parentheses, react for you, and that this extends to everything that he foresees in every circumstance you'll face, and dictates all your reactions to them, in parentheses, see your future and ordain before it came what you should do in every circumstance. All of this must be true if he, rather than you, is the author of what you do. And then back to the text. He must have made the world as well as you. Footnote 24. This means that he must have made the world as well as making you. Back to the text. To have such presence in the things to come. That you are what your brother made of you seems most unlikely. Even if he did, who gave the face of innocence to you? Is this your contribution? Who is then the you who made it? And who is deceived by all your goodness and attacks it so? Let us forget the concept's foolishness and merely think of this. There are 2 parts to what you think yourself to be. If one was generated by your brother, who was there to make the other? And from whom must something be kept hidden? If the world be evil, there is still no need to hide what you are made of. Who is there to see? And what but is attacked could see defense? Footnote 25. This paragraph further undermines the idea that you are what your brother made you to be. It is based on the idea that the self-concept is made of 2 parts. There is the first part, the face of innocence, which believes that it is good within an evil world. This face serves as a mask that hides the second part, which we can call the victim, and which condemns your brother for turning you into a hated thing through his brutality. The existence of the face of innocence assumes that there is a need to hide the victim with a mask, and the mask must be defended against accusations that it is just a mask. All this raises three questions. Even if we accept that the second part, the victim, was made by your brother, parentheses, who gave the face of innocence to you, end parentheses, who is attacking the face of innocence, accusing it of being just a facade? And who is the victim being hidden from? After all, if the world is evil, who cares what it thinks? The implied answer to all three questions, an answer stated overtly in the first sentence of the next paragraph, is you. This makes you a powerful player in the picture, and this means that you cannot be a mere victim at the mercy of your brother's actions. Perhaps the reason why this concept must be kept in darkness, I'm reading back with the text, paragraph 11. Perhaps the reason why this concept must be kept in darkness is that in the light, the one who would not think it true is you. And what would happen to the world you know if all its underpinnings were removed? Your concept of the world depends upon this concept of the self, and both would go if either one were ever raised to doubt. The Holy Spirit, does not seek to throw you into a panic. So he merely asks if just a little question might be raised. There are alternatives about the things that you might be. You might, for instance, be the thing you chose to have your brother be. Footnote 26, what you chose to have your brother be is the evil victimizer who stands condemned for turning his brother, namely you, into a grotesque, hated thing. So now you are also an evil victimizer who stands condemned for turning your brother into a grotesque, hated thing. This shifts the concept of the self from what is wholly passive, and at least makes way for active choice and some acknowledgement that interaction must have entered in. There is some understanding that you chose for both of you, and what he represents has meaning that was given it by you. It also shows some glimmering of sight into perception's law, that what you see reflects the state of the perceiver's mind. Yet, who was it that did the choosing first? If you are what you choose your brother to be, alternatives were there to choose between, and someone must have first decided on the one to choose and let the others go. Although this step has gains, it does not yet approach a basic question. Something must have gone before these concepts of the self, and something must have done the learning which gave rise to them. Nor can this be explained by either view. Footnote 27. The two views are, 1, that you are the damaged victim your brother made of you as the second aspect of the self-concept claims, see 9.1, or 2, that you are the victimizer, the very thing you chose your brother to be. Neither of these views explains the you that came before these two concepts of the self and did the learning which gave rise to them. Now back to the text. The main advantage of the shifting to the second from the first is that you somehow entered in the choice by your decision. But this gain is paid in almost equal loss, for now you stand accused of guilt for what your brother is, and you must share his guilt because you chose it for him in the image of your own. While only he was treacherous before, now must you be condemned along with him. The concept of the self has always been the great preoccupation of the world, and everyone believes that he must find the answer to the riddle of himself. Excuse me, it's obviously a little windy here. Salvation can be seen as nothing more than the escape from concepts. It does not concern itself with content of the mind, but with the simple statement that it thinks. And what can think has choice, and can be shown that different thoughts have different consequence. and it can learn that everything it thinks reflects the deep confusion that it feels about how it was made and what it is. And vaguely does the concept of the self appear to answer what it does not know. Seek not yourself in symbols. There can be no concept that can stand for what you are. What matters it which concept you accept while you perceive a self which interacts with evil and reacts to wicked things. Your concept of yourself will still remain quite meaningless, and you will not perceive that you can interact but with yourself. To see a guilty world is but the sign your learning has been guided by the world, and you behold it as you see yourself. The concept of the self embraces all you look upon, and nothing is outside of this perception. If you can be hurt by anything, you see a picture of your secret wishes, nothing more than this. And in your suffering of any kind, you see your own concealed desire to kill. You will make many concepts of the self as learning goes along. Each one will show the changes in your own relationships as your perception of yourself is changed. There will be some confusion every time there is a shift, but be you thankful that the learning of the world is loosening its grasp upon your mind. And be you sure and happy in the confidence that it will go at last and leave your mind at peace. The role of the accuser will appear in many places and in many forms, and each will seem to be accusing you. But have no fear, it will not be undone. The world can teach no images of you unless you want to learn them. There will come a time when images have all gone by, and you will see you know not what you are. It is to this unsealed and open mind that truth returns unhindered and unbound. Where concepts of the self have been laid by is truth revealed exactly as it is. When every concept has been raised to doubt and question and been recognized as made of no assumptions that withstand the light, then is the truth left free to enter in its sanctuary clean and free of guilt. There is no statement that the world is more afraid to hear than this. I do not know the thing I am, and therefore do not know what I am doing, where I am, or how to look upon the world or on myself. Yet in this learning is salvation born, and what you are will tell you of itself. And now this is Robert Perry's commentary, day 360, the concept of the self, paragraphs 9 through 17. In the first half of the section, which we read yesterday, Jesus builds up on his view of the self-concept as having two aspects, a surface aspect and a hidden one. The first is the face of innocence, a self-concept that says we are innocent in a sinful world, but is really composed of a pseudo-innocence. The second is what I call the enraged victim, in which we believe our brother has so mangled and scarred us that we are the living proof of his sinfulness. The first aspect is merely there to cover up and protect the second, which in turn is there to make the world seem real and give it power over us. In the second half of the section, Jesus gently and persuasively raises the second aspect to question. Let me try to paraphrase his questions, but before I do, it might help if you kept someone in mind during the process. Is there someone you've been secretly saying this line to? I am the thing that you made of me, and as you look on me, you stand condemned because of what I am. If so, hold that person in mind while you go through the following questions. First, is it really possible that your brother made you, as this second aspect claims, I am the thing you made of me? He would not only have to do things to you, he'd also have to ordain what you do, and to do that, he'd have to be able to see into the future and know what events you'd be responding to. Does he really have those godlike powers? Second, if you are so passive, so at the mercy of others, then who made the face of innocence? You aren't going to seriously maintain that your brother did that to you, are you? Third, who required the making of the face of innocence? Was it made in order to blind your brother to the enraged victim in you? Or was it made to blind you? If your brother is really as evil as you think, who cares what he thinks about you? Isn't it true that you are trying to keep the enraged victim hidden from your own eyes? After all, if you see it, you might begin to question it, which would then shake the foundations of your world. After going through these questions, Jesus explores another alternative. Perhaps it would be better to be the thing you chose to have your brother be. In other words, just as you saw him as the one who mangled you, you now would see yourself as the one who mangled him. There is an advantage to this, in that this self-concept contains far more responsibility than the other one. It's not so nearly passive, and that's a good thing. But, says Jesus, this gain is paid in almost equal loss, for now you stand accused of guilt for what your brother is. This clearly is not a great option. All of Jesus' questioning leads us to an inexorable conclusion. You have far more power and choice in the situation than you have been telling yourself. There is clearly something, a you, that has been forming these self-concepts and must have preceded them. Something must have gone before these concepts of the self, and something must have done the learning which gave rise to them. That something, of course, is the very self that these concepts claim to capture. I apologize, I'm having difficulty reading this right now. It must be prior to them, independent of them, and the cause of them. What is that self, that you? Whatever it is, Jesus says it cannot be captured by any concept. There can be no concept that stand for what you are. It lies beyond all concepts. It can no more be portrayed with concepts than the taste of chicken can be drawn with a pencil. It has to be tasted. It has to be directly known. The most honest thing we can say about this self is that we don't know what it is. We can't really live in that openness, not yet. And so, for now, we will inevitably continue to make self-concepts out of the urge to answer that most fundamental of all questions. What am I? And these self-concepts will continue to go through changes as a reflection of our changing learning. But through it all, we will be loosening our grip on all self-concepts in the realization that we simply don't know. In this way, there will come a time when images have gone by and you will see you know not what you are. This mind, which holds purely the question without trying to fill the answer, is the mind that will finally know. In the meantime, Jesus gives us a practice for hastening that day. I recommend using this practice throughout the day today, repeating it to yourself, and while doing so, feeling the openness and expectant joy of admitting that you just don't know. I do not know the thing I am, and therefore do not know what I am doing, where I am, or how to look upon the world or on myself. Open mind, new experience. I love you. Thank you so much for joining with me today. Day 360, The Concept of Self, paragraphs 9 through 17 in A Course in Miracles, complete and annotated edition. I love you. Thank you.